Hey everyone, welcome back to Jameson's Repair Shop. Well, you saw me working on the wheel arch, the back part of it on the last video for this car. And you also saw me cut this fancy looking piece out. So what we have here, this is the wheelhouse extension. This is where the quarter panel would join onto. And inside of this is a insert or a filler piece. I'm going to call it a filler piece. There's probably a real name for it. But this is where we go over top of the muffler. That's why it has this shape. So the first thing I want to do is make this piece right here. Now this is a fairly simple piece. And as you can see, it has this, it runs flat and then it dips down. And it'll have a flange there. We'll have a flange here, obviously a flange here because it's joined on. And it has that flange in the back that goes to the rear bulkhead of the luggage compartment. And then in this part, the flange would go all the way up. And then it tips up like this, and there was a flange on it. So now what I have here for like a roadmap to this thing is this piece right here. This piece, even though it just looks like a little tiny nib on the end there, that right there is a critical part because that tells me exactly how long this needs to be. Because I haven't repaired the piece coming down to it yet from the inner wheelhouse. So this piece right here, I need this to be the same distance from here to here with a flange on it. So I'm going to use a piece of, I'll use a piece of tape just to go along there when we get going. So what I'm going to build it out of is the roof. And I built, this piece is already missing out of here. This is the roof off of a 65 Thunderbird Landau. And there's some really good metal. I mentioned that in the last video. If you have an opportunity to pick up some of these roof pieces. I mean, obviously you want a car that's completely trash. You want to cut a roof off of a good car. But if there's one that's completely left with nothing but the roof, hey, harvest it because it's got crown in it both ways like this. It's perfect for doing this type of work. So anyway, I'm going to get this measured up and I'll get a piece of metal cut out of this and we're going to make this one first. I'm going to try to make it on the brake with the flanges right on it. I'm going to try it. We'll see what happens. I may end up welding a flange on. Who knows? Probably I will weld the flange on the back end. And most likely up here. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll get lucky and get it right the first time. Got her laid out pretty good there. And all I did was, again, my wife's sewing tape. I think it's mine now. Anyway, all I did was mark it all out. I've got some marks on here, what I need for rough metal. Well, this is the actual size, but I'm going to have to go oversized to get the rough metal. So all I do is just measure it like that, follow the tin along, just like so. Added the flanges on. Flanges are 3/4 of an inch. This flange goes down, that flange goes up. This flange goes up, and then this flange goes up over here. And they're all 3/4, which I didn't mark that one, but it doesn't matter. I know it's a 3/4 inch flange. So I have to add flange times 2. So pretty much straightforward. So I'll have to do an overall measurement. I'm going to give myself lots of extra. All right, let's get the roof up here and lay it out. Well, there's a piece. Hopefully that'll do it. A little tight right here, but I think it's going to be fine because this is where the line went. And I just need 3/4. Well, that's it. So let's get this piece all cleaned up and then we'll start working with it. All right, so now we got that done. Look at this. That's all rotten, man. There's not much left of that roof. But anyway, I wanted my metal to curve that way a little bit anyway. So that's the most curved because that was the front lip of the roof. So I'm going to put that bent part over that way. That's kind of how it looks. That's it. She's built. Anyway, so we got this on here. I'm going to start laying out stuff. And we have this straight edge here to work off of. So let's do that. There now, I've got her marked up. That's a long piece to break in my cheap Princess Auto brake. So what I'm going to have to do is probably mark it, and I'm probably going to have to put it over the end of my workbench and then finish the brake on it. So I think I'll break this piece first. Let's try it. Okay, she's clamped in there. I got a feeling that I'm going to have to help this along. We'll see. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, it's coming. Oh, yeah. I'll probably have to freshen up the edges a bit of it. Anyway, I'm going to leave that for there right now. There. Now the other one has to go down. The other brake. Seems they did a not bad job. And the other one will go this way, so I'm going to have to mark it on the other side. So let me get this switched around and we'll do that. Well, there we go. I got that brake in it. I was going to break this one now, but I think I'm going to hold off on breaking that one. And then this one has to go down the opposite way. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to get this form in here, this shape that's in here first. So if you remember, this has this shape in it. So really, I should have marked where the shape is. It's pretty close where this line is right here. That's where the shape starts. That's kind of where I put the tape. By accident. But anyway, I'll start with just inside that line. I'm just going to bump this over some with my brake. We got that bend in it. It's kind of how we're looking. This is the back end here. This is the front. So now I'm going to do the flange now on this side. And then I'm going to cut this a little bit. And then I'll bend this up. And then I can hand form this little piece here. All right, so she's coming along pretty good. I left a 1-inch flange on this side. I just wanted to straighten it up. And it's about the same here, 1-inch flange. Now I have to deal with this up bend. I think I'm going to do this with the ball peen hammer. And over my my heavy square, that heavy steel anvil. I call it an anvil, but it's just like a heavy steel thing. Well, after a little bit of manipulating and bending and whatnot, that's it. That's as close as I need to be for this piece. Well, I put it in place, turned the car up on its edge, put it in place. Now this is not set down perfectly, but not bad. And the flange hasn't been cleaned up on here. I just wanted to do it to get some of this flange lines on the end done and on this end. These are just rough flange lines. They'll have to be a little longer than that. This one's probably pretty good, but that over there is not great. It needs to go back a little further. So with that kind of sitting in place and fairly close to being completed, now we're going to reproduce this piece right here. So it's all missing here, and this came up. This is where the flange was for that piece I just made, and this continued along, but actually it's like a cone that goes in there, and it goes in right ahead of that drain plug where the drain plug is. So there's a cone-shaped piece of metal that goes in there that matches the curve of the wheelhouse. That piece I put on that wheelhouse extension, it matches that. It has to match that. And then it comes down along where I put that flange for the actual wheel arch. So it all has to match that. So we're going to be kind of bouncing back and forth between those things. But for now, I want to build the bulk of this and not finished on each end because there's going to be some work. So I'll have to get some measurements. So here we are. I got my measuring tape. All I'm trying to do is get an overall length. And I know this, where that cone piece starts, is right about here. So I only have to give it a little bit extra on that side. And I want to get the full length on that side plus a little bit. So I'm going to give an extra inch on the end, maybe 2 inches on the end. And I'm going to give another, so 3 feet. So I'm going to give it a little extra on here. So 3 feet of steel. Now this piece here, Now this has to wrap around, so I'm going to give it probably a good 10 inches. So 3 by 10. That's what we're looking at. So we'll set this aside and we'll get our piece of steel up here. All right, here's our roof that we're going to get the steel from. And I put it over here. Spin her around. Now, probably take it off the end. Probably going to take it right off here. Time to cut a piece of steel off. All right, got the shears out. I'm going to cut it a shade bit shorter than the line. I'm going to stay on this side because I don't need it quite a foot. Got a piece of steel all cut. I got my old piece over top, and I clearly forgot how this tips up. And this needs to go all the way up to here, so I have to trace that just rough. I'm going to trace, I'm just doing a mark to see, kind of give me some guidelines. I'm going to do from the center out on this. So I'm going to work my way out with these beads right here. So the first thing is do the center one, because when you put the beads in, it changes the length of the steel. I'm already a little short. I didn't estimate enough. That's what happens, right? So now I'm scrimping. But anyway, for now, I'm going to have to start here. And there's a mark there and a mark there. Not going to worry about the other ones right now. Next spot will be this right here. This gas drain. And it went all the way down. I think it came all the way around like so, if I remember correctly. We'll check. I'll check the... I'll check something. I know I have pictures of another one that's in good shape. So I think it might have just came down like this, but I can't remember if it was straight across. It doesn't matter. Well, I've got my bead roller set up. I moved the shaft, this shaft back a little bit on my up over here on my gear drive, just to give myself a little bit of room here. Now, I'm going to go down. I got the metal touching on the pinch between the wheels. So I'm going to go down a full turn, another full turn. All right, I'm going to try to follow this line with that upper wheel. Speed forward. Nope, we're in reverse. Let's give her a jog forward to get her started, and then I'll go in reverse a little bit. All right, and then back up to go to the line. There, right at the line. Forward again. Oh, we're moving. Lots of battery power now. There. Just like so. That looks like a good bead. Looks pretty close to what was there. Now, yeah, there's enough room. The middle is a long stretch. And what did I say I did? There, we're touching 2.5 turns. Two turns, that's all I did. All right. There, all the way out to the end. Good. Well, now I can mark up the other ones. I went into my old video footage of doing the 65 hardtop to find out the shape of this drain tube spot right here. Now, here is a discrepancy, not a discrepancy, but a difference. I guess that's a discrepancy between this car, this one I have right here, this for this convertible, and the 65 hardtop I have. The 65 hardtop came down here to about halfway across the hole, and then it went around in a semicircle. So half of this area was in semicircle. But this one, clearly, and it's not been modified or anything, comes all the way down, and it meets, pretty much it goes out right the same place that the bead does. So there's a little difference there in these cars and how they're made. I went to put this step in, and I end up cutting the metal. It had to go down quite deep, as you can see. So I ended up slicing the metal, so I just cut it right off and bent myself a piece from 18 gauge and welded it on. I just tacked it on. For now, I'll finish welding it. So, but it's looking okay. The bottom again is not going to be perfect just yet. Let's up in here. So there she is, and hopefully it matches the old one. Then obviously some flanges need to be put on front and back. But yeah, I think she'll be just fine. I think it fits in there pretty decent. Well, we're making some pretty good headway here. I got some nice curve on this. I think this is over bent a little bit, but this has to go with the inner wheelhouse. This whole thing has to be the shape of the inner wheelhouse. So it's close. This needs to be filled in with that same ledge that I put on along there. Got the gas drain hole indent in. I didn't put a hole in. And I think that's the only hole except for underneath. There's a drain hole down in here that has to go in. So this area here is going to have to be flattened out again. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do there, because that's not going to fit that won't fit the quarter panel like that. This has to come in and be flattened out. So anyway, I'll figure that out. Need some flange on the end of this, but when I start fitting it in the car, I just rough cut it. And the same with this one, rough cut. So there'll need to be a flange. I think it's a little tiny bit long, and I already mentioned that. And there'll be a flange on here as well, and down in here. And I mentioned what's going on here. So this cone, half cone, whatever it is, partial cone, really only goes into about here. And then this is flattened out. So there's a bit of molding to do there. I'll get it straightened out after. But I wanted to get that brake line in, this brake line right here, so I can keep where I know where I have to be. And I did that on the metal brake. All right, we'll continue on. Well, I've been working this a bit, and you can see this is the wheelhouse extension, and over here is the actual patch panel for the quarter panel that I made. So I've been using it as a guide on how to put this in. So anyway, right in this area right here, if you can see that, needs to be fixed up some, but there also has to be a drain hole impression put in there. So that has to get done. Down on the back end, it's fitting pretty decent. A little more in here, get rid of some of this extra stuff. In here is fitting pretty good. This has to follow that outer wheelhouse arc that I made when I fixed the outer wheelhouse up. So I have to get this to fit better there. So that's something that has to happen. But overall, she's looking pretty good. So quite a lot of bit of monkeying around in this area right here, doing this fitting in this here. It's a lot of hammering and getting it right, and it's never going to be factory looking, but it'll be somewhat close. Now you'll see down in here, I don't know if you can see it or not, this piece right here, this flange, and this, they come together at the top. So this, you'll see that that's pushed in. That's because this needs to be filled down in here on an angle, because this goes back that way and then it comes out. Anyway, that's it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you over to the car and show you what the rest of it looks like. So here's the filler piece, the luggage compartment filler piece right here. And I've got it just clamped in, and it needs flange. And of course, like this inner part of the wheelhouse needs to be flanged. And that's about it. Oh, yeah, on the back, when I took the flange off the back here, it exposed quite a bit more rust. So this has to be, there it is, right like that. That's how it sits. So when I lost most of the flange right here, so I had to replace this whole section. It's not a big deal. It's just a piece of flat metal with the same curve as that in it, and then put a flange on this. All right, so I'm going to put these all together and see what they look like. Well, there it is. There's the lower quarter panel, patch panel, the filler piece that goes between the luggage compartment and the wheelhouse extension, and right there is the wheelhouse extension. Still needs a bit of work, like I said a bit ago. Needs some work here, needs a little bit of work in here. It's going to need a tiny bit of work up here, and the flanges go on it. This is a large piece of the back of this car, actually. A lot bigger than you think. These cars are very low. Anyway, that's it there, and this is the old one. Give you a kind of a side-by-side view of how they look. That So this to that. And it'll be rust free. It won't be exactly 100% factory, but she'll be rust free. The outside, I'll get it as best I can as well before the paint goes on her. It always takes a bit. But I wanted to say this video is getting quite long, so I think what I'm going to do there, I'm going to call it quits on this video. And thank everyone for watching. If you made it this far, thank you very much for hanging in there. And we'll catch you in the next one.